Good afternoon, this is Chandra Easton here, esoteric psychologist and astrologer, speaking to you this afternoon about the joy of service. You'll find more information about me on my website, Living in Light, starastrologyhealing.com, and I draw upon a wealth of experience over many decades working with people with their esoteric astrology chart to help them to find the path and the way forward through which to make a difference in this world, the path of the soul. I'll be speaking about these vocational paths of the soul, and they're known as the 10 seed groups. Because when our soul has access into the earthly world, then work can become a path where love is made visible. This is not just an ordinary career, but it's something that raises consciousness. And if hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands or millions of souls were to find and stand in their point where their soul has the greatest talent and capacity and skill to work, then we would be able to raise the consciousness on this earth. And so it's incredibly important that we understand the direction that our soul's pointing us in. And this is based upon our talents and skills from past incarnations. The 10 seed groups, they're the telepathic communicators, trained observers, magnetic healers, educators of the new age, and politicians. That's the first 5. Important to realise that these are completely different and have a higher vibration than 19th or 20th century careers. And then we have those working with the New World religion. We have the scientists, the psychologists, the financiers, and the creative workers. Yes, and you see, the thing is that we work in one or more of these paths. It's not a case of being limited to a particular path. According to the light of our soul, we blend these paths. Now, 2 of the groups, that's the telepathic communicators and the creative workers. This is where the more highly evolved senior disciples, the initiates, work. These are the overseeing groups. And then according to our soul's experience, sort of, you might say, our Akashic record, which is really held, if we can read it, in the natal chart, then we bring through skills that we have integrated, skills that we're in the process of integrating, or skills that will come to us as we develop and evolve. Yes, so we're a work in progress, really. Let's talk about the telepathic communicators. They work upon the 3rd frequency, or the 3rd ray, known as the active intelligence, sometimes known as the Holy Mother energy. And as I said, these are the senior disciples who are working for the initiates, and the frequencies are held in the signs of Gemini and Libra. Yes, 2 of the air signs, and there's a great amount of insight, and it's going to take us all a while to learn to be telepathic, but it's useful to know that there are teachers who work under this school of telepathy, and they are the custodians of this group purpose for humanity, because eventually, by the time we get through to the next root race, we will all be working telepathically. And they train and lead the disciples, the aspirants, and the probationaries. And you could say that we see this evidence through, let's say, the world peace movement. Here's an image of Alice Bailey. And she was the outer vehicle, the telepathic communicator for the Lord Dwell Cool. And she wrote more than, I don't know how many books it was, 25, 30 books in the 20th century. And she brought forward teachings on healing and psychology and religion and politics. And she did it because she has that capacity to work telepathically. And I have her chart up here. I'm not going to talk a great deal about it. I'm just literally going to say that if you have a look, you'll notice that up there in the 11th sector, we have the sign of Gemini. And here we have Venus and the Sun and Vulcan, 3 planets in the sign of Gemini. So clearly she's working on that frequency. Remember, it's Gemini and Libra. And then looking further in the 3rd segment of the chart, she has the Moon in Libra. Now, it wasn't necessarily an easy path for her. Her moon is in Libra and it's square, her Vulcan in Gemini, and I'm sure she had her own struggles and challenges, because one could only imagine the difficulty of having a vocational path of service that is to telepathically connect with wholly enlightened beings and write books for and on their behalf. And did the books come through perfectly? Probably not. Is there an enormous amount of wisdom in the books? Absolutely. Now, Alice Bailey was really a soul ahead of her time, working with this group of telepathic communicators on behalf of the holy ones, who are generally, they're not visible, they don't have lives or incarnations where we can meet them in the street. Here's an image of the Lord Dwell Cool, who was the teacher behind these books of esoteric psychology and astrology, and discipleship for the New Age and externalization of the hierarchy. But there are more modern souls, and here we have the energy of the lady Ananda Tarashan, and she was also a member of the telepathic communicators, and her primary work was on behalf of many of the holy ones, but primarily on behalf of Lord Maitreya, the fifth and the future Buddha of Earth. And through the vehicle of the Lady Ananda and her telepathic heart and mind, she brought forth teachings for the children of the heart. And I briefly wanted to show you Ananda's chart here, and I just draw your attention to all the planets in Libra. We have in the fifth segment of the chart, we have the Sun and the Moon, and Neptune and Mercury and Chiron. So we have a great amount of synergistic integration of this telepathic work. And if you look further, you'll notice over in the first house, we have the North Node and the planet Uranus. So what we have here is a transcendental, powerful seventh ray descent of these teachings that's coming through the physical body. And of course, Ananda worked with the living word of the hierarchy, and you'll find her teachings at heartflowworldwide.org or maitreyatheosophy.org. And she's just a more modern, this century's example of a telepathic communicator, because of course we're out of reach. And this is the issue really, is that the average person or the average student, you and I, we don't have this capacity to have telepathic connection with the holy ones. But Alice Bailey certainly did, and Lady Ananda certainly did. Okay, now let's speak about the second group, the Global Peace Meditators. The Lord Dwell Cool refers to them as the trained observers, and working through the frequency of harmony through conflict, what's known as the fourth ray. Because, of course, the conflict comes because our personalities tend to try and block the path. It's our soul that wants connection. Yes, so the task of the trained observers is to work on the astral plane, to clear up world glamour, individual glamour, world glamour, to develop intuition and illumination, and eventually free all of humanity from wrong thinking and confused emotions. And the way we do this is right observation, being able to witness our personality, recognise what's the difference between the personality and the soul. Choose and stay focused on a direction that is coming from the heart, from the soul, and enter into meditation training. And of course, this is by entering into a spiritual practice. It doesn't matter what religion, what path you take, but meditation, one form or another, will align you into the heart of your soul and put you as a soul in training with these global peace meditators, the trained observers. And there are hundreds of thousands of souls all around the world who are working to meditate together for world peace. And we have three tasks: to clear and dissipate the glamour, our confused emotional thinking, to build a bridge to our higher mind so that we're not being run and controlled by the lower mind, the ego, and to learn to develop discrimination. Three tasks we have, and there are many thousands of souls involved in this work. And as I said, it doesn't matter what path you take, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter whether you do it in a temple, at home, in a mosque, in a forest. The most important thing is to tune in, to pray and to meditate and to align. Okay, the next group are the magnetic healers. operating on the second ray of love and wisdom. And this is the magnetic healers transmit light. Yes, and the magnetic healers are working through the signs of the zodiac of Leo and Aquarius. And so, of course, one would expect the energy of the sign of Leo, fixed fire, and the energy of Aquarius, fixed air, in the natal charts of the people who are the magnetic healers. And the keynotes that they're meant to be working with are conscious transmission of light. This is different to a medium who works unconsciously, also working with psychological healing and learning to live in light. And I've included a couple of people here. Barack Obama, who, was a politician, not necessarily a healer, and yet this photograph here kind of says it all. He's a charismatic individual radiating light. Yeah, so I would suggest that, and of course he's a Leo. Yeah, so I haven't got his chart here. I'm just letting you know that I would say that he's got second ray pretty strong. And also we have Oprah Winfrey. Now, Oprah Winfrey's an Aquarian. Aquarians are often in the public eye and in the, very much up there in the media. And I believe that she's also an example of an ordinary person working with her soul light through the energy of healing. She works to bring awareness and psychological insight to hundreds of thousands of people. The next group are the educators of the new age, and they are also on the second ray of love and wisdom. And it's very common that the magnetic healers also work in the field of education, because they're both the same signs of the zodiac, Leo and Aquarius, and both the same frequency, the second ray of love and wisdom. So the keynotes for the educators is that their task and their purpose is to lift the awareness of the ordinary humanity and to take knowledge and apply it and live it so that it is transmuted into wisdom. And for this reason, they need a higher, broader occult understanding and insights into higher philosophies. And we have here Dr. Maria Montessori. I've chosen Dr. Montessori because I can't remember the year she was born now. I think it was late in the 19th century, and she was a medical doctor, but she had deep care and love for children, and she believed that children have an innate need within them to learn, and she sort of founded the Montessori movement, or you could say the holistic approach of working with the child rather on all levels of being, heart, mind and body. Let's have a look at her chart, and you'll see that she has on the ascendant, on the left-hand side of the chart, the sign of Leo there, and she has Venus in Leo. She also has Vulcan in Leo, so no doubt she had her own transformational tests and trials in order to be able to hold this work and walking away from medicine into this. The next group are the politicians and the sociologists, and they work upon the frequency of Ray 1, which holds the energy of spiritual will and power. This is the most difficult of the seed groups to manifest, and generally speaking we'll find Taurians and Pisceans, but not all Taurians and Pisceans, who are working to lift their energy to higher will. And the keynotes for the politicians is that they have to reach to high principles of illumination and bring down and manifest a degree of true democracy. But of course, one look at the world and politics will make you realise that this is very difficult to do, and there's often quite a lot of destructive energy, and generally speaking their success relies upon the educators, so the educators have to come in first and lift the awareness. I've chosen here Queen Elizabeth simply because, well, yes, she's a politician, even though not a member of Parliament. She's held principles, I believe. She's been there for, I don't know, is it 7 decades or something like that? And one look at the chart of Queen Elizabeth II will let you know that she's a Taurian. Yes, she has the sun in Taurus, a bit too close to Chiron, so she's had her fair share of crises with the men in her life. Yes, associated with this energy. And does she have Pisces? Yes, she has Venus in Pisces and Uranus in Pisces. The next group, the next seed group, is the New World Religion. This is an umbrella group and operates under the frequency of idealism and devotion in the 6th ray. And you'll find generally the signs of Cancer and Scorpio in the charts of individuals who work with this new frequency of the New World Religion. And the purpose of the New World Religion is to help people find God within, transcendental mysticism and transcendental occultism, but to anchor it within their own heart and to teach about the reality of soul and spirit. This is completely different from the priests of days gone by. A wonderful example of a soul who's working under the auspices of the New World Religion is Mother Meera. And she's an Indian saint who travels the world transmitting light. Generally, no teaching, just sitting and transmitting light. We have a look at her chart, and what I wanted to point out to you was the big blue triangle in the middle of the chart that links the sign of Cancer, where she has the Earth and Mars, with Neptune up there in Scorpio in the 11th house, and down to the past life point in Pisces. So this tells me that she's a mystic and has this brilliant capacity to transmit light and has been doing it for many incarnations. The next group are the scientists, and they're working with love in action and the 5th ray. And the challenge of the scientists is to bridge, it's the sign of Gemini, and the challenge of the scientists is to bridge the heart across the mind to the higher mind. And the keynotes for the scientists are recognise what it is that's outgrown and clear it away, and strive and work to unite consciousness and form. Their task is to bridge spirit and matter. Yes, so that we lift humanity and realise that there's more in heaven and earth than we can see. And their task also is to release energies with which benefit and further human evolution, and to lift and raise and have a care for the lower kingdoms. And of course this is a challenge because many of the scientists have exploited the earth and exploited the lower kingdoms. Rachel Carson here, she's the woman who founded the modern environmental movement. I think she's an American woman. And she's recognising that Earth is a sentient being, and that we need to be careful of what we put in it, and we can't just poison it with chemicals and the like. And Rachel Carson's, if you have a look at her chart, you'll see the Gemini on the left-hand side of the chart, spanning the 12th and the 1st house. We have Vulcan and the Sun, the red line, that's the ascendant, a Mercury and Pluto. An enormous amount of insight and great capacity to work with the light of her soul through the sign of Gemini. And she was certainly initiated a whole new way of working with science earlier in the 20th century. And then we have the psychologists working on the 3rd ray, active intelligence, and the ray of the Holy Mother. And through this ray, we have the disciples working with the sign of Sagittarius and Capricorn. Both of these signs are involved with the esoteric psychology. And the keynotes of esoteric psychology is that we have to understand the relationship between the human soul and the other kingdoms, to learn to study the plan, what's the purpose of life on earth, develop a soul sensitivity. Often theosophists are involved in this, and there needs to be kind of a studious temperament. And of course Carl Jung is a wonderful example, and you could say the father of current psychology, but he was well ahead of his time. Was he 100 years or 50 years ahead of his time? And he was certainly investigating and asking questions and delving deeply into the realms of the soul. Yes, unlike other, I think of Freud, for instance, who was a bit sort of stuck and not going in that direction. Now, if we look at the chart of Carl Jung, particularly for the signs of Sagittarius and Capricorn, what we have is Mars in Sagittarius, sitting up there in the 11th house, and Capricorn rising. Yes, so very strong sense of destiny associated with self-discovery. And I think you could say that Carl Jung opened the door for modern psychology into self-analysis and the examination of the self. Yes, and there are other matters in his chart. I mean, he's got a very great amount of Leo and Aquarius, so he was also an educator and a magnetic healer. And of course, the higher and the more evolved the soul, the more seed groups that they participate in. So we can see Jung here is working in psychology, he's working in healing, he's working in education. Yes, let's move on now to the financiers, Ray 3, active intelligence. A different frequency, similarly Ray 3, but more of the matter, involved in matter. And the purpose for the financiers is to have a right understanding and a spiritual appreciation of money, and to recognise that money is simply energy, and to learn, and that it's concretised divine energy, and it's up to the financiers to be able to direct and funnel energy towards channels that doesn't benefit the individual, benefits the whole. The study is around the supply, law of supply and demand, and a recognition that it's tithing to sources of inspiration is extremely important, as well as having motivation and selflessness, because we know that the root of all evil's been around money. This needs to change, and of course it is Sagittarius and Capricorn, prominent in the charts of those who are working in this difficult field. I have Catherine Austin Fitz here, and Catherine Austin Fitz is a woman who's worked for decades involved in government and finance, and primarily her work earlier on was to shine a light upon corruption, and now she's moved into helping people understand that living close to the earth and working well with money and lifting the role of money for a spiritual purpose for the benefit of communities. And if you look at the chart of Catherine Austin Fitz up there in the 9th house, you'll see that she's got the Sun and Venus and Mercury all in Capricorn, and in Sagittarius she has Vulcan and Chiron. Very, very strong impulse around this energy of finance for the 21st century, being able to sort of work with the energy of money and recognise that it's just a divine energy that needs to be channeled through pure motivation. This has been a very challenging career path for her, and she's been denigrated and locked out of ordinary society and persecuted. And then the final group, the creative artists, and this is a synthesizing group. Yes, and like the telepathic communicators, this is the highly evolved souls, this is the senior disciples, the initiates, and it's for them it's all the zodiac signs and all the frequencies, the 7 rays and the 3 invisible rays. And the Lord DK tells us there are 27 initiate members. That's 3 from each one of the seed groups. And no doubt there are multiples of these groups. And as we move more deeply into this 21st century and the incoming 4th ray, then the creative artists hopefully will get more souls who've progressed and, graduated into this realm. And the creative artists are working to assist all of us to bridge the energy of the soul in the upward pointing triangle, the energy of the personality in the downward pointing triangle, and to unite these triangles through our hearts. And when we unite these triangles through our hearts, then what happens is that we access the light of our soul, and then our soul educates or trains or teaches us and helps us to recognise who and where it is and in what ways we belong to the inner ashrams of earth. I love this image here of Madame Blavatsky, who was also a telepathic communicator because of her connection with the holy ones through the Himalayas. And of course we have Mahadharma Sambodhi, currently in the Himalayas, working with his people, and his focus is really many things, but it's to do with the preservation of removal of cruelty from animals. And most everybody understands and knows about the Dalai Lama and his global work to teach us to radiate love and happiness. And of course, not all the holy ones are away from us. Here's Tarajoti Govinda, who worked as an esoteric healer, educator, psychologist, so many things. And whoever it is that our teachers are, the purpose is to connect us in to the heart of all hearts, the heart of the fifth and the future Buddha of Earth, Maitreya, and then we will become part of the group heart, the one heart that is working by finding the work that is uniquely ours to do and standing within this frequency of light. Yes, and so I advise you to investigate this subject. There's more of it on my website. Maybe you've never had your esoteric astrology chart done before, but the more you investigate or read, it could be books on the externalization of the hierarchy, could be books of Alice Bailey's, could be my book on the joy of service, could be that you're attracted to the teachings of Catherine Austin Fitz or Madame Blavatsky. But find a way to connect and to plug into the teachings that plug you into your group. And in this way you will become part of the group of world servers who are working through this 10 seed groups. And these teachings come about almost 100 years ago now, and it's really, this is the way we will manifest holy light on earth. Yes, this has been Chandra Easton here from Star Astrology Healing, Living in Light. Bye for now.